Good evening. Welcome to part two of Red Flags. You've heard two male representatives. I'm not sure they represented all men, but they represented a portion or a segment of the male population within the Muslim community. We have here with us today the woman's version, and we have here our esteemed and very brave guest that has come on, Sister Sophia. Now, she's a revert of Polish descent. Alhamdulillah, she's Muslim, and I've briefly heard the story she's come on and she's come forward to share with you guys, and they are horrific. So, trigger warning if any sisters have experienced any of the things that she's experienced, please sought some help, counseling, because what's happened to her, the damage that's happened to her, that can't be undone. She has to go and do counseling and various other things. But ultimately, she's come on with the purpose to inform, educate, and prevent. We also will be in half an hour be joined by a domestic abuse women's advocate. So she's worked in the area of domestic abuse and she's an advocate for women. So she'll be coming on online half an hour from a busy schedule. So we'll have her on as well. Thank you very much, Sister Sophia. Islam. I think I have listened to a little bit of what you had to say, and again, I want to hear it for the very first time, so it's organic to me as well. So the floor is yours. Start us off with your red flags and what you've experienced with men.
So I'd like to start with the first story that I have, that I met somebody who was a revert as well. And we got on well, and then he disappeared for 6 months. I think when he returned, we kind of, so to say, caught up with where we left off in a sense. And then he just explained what happened, why he wasn't in touch with me. And as a, so to say, token of his promise, he left a wallet in my place because I invited him just have a chat. And when he came over first time, he was really nice, and I thought, okay, maybe we have a chance, so let's do it again. And when we met the second time, he said he's gonna come back, to pick up his wallet, and we're gonna talk about the nikah and take it from there. So I agreed to that, and when I texted him a couple of weeks later because he was not responding, he started getting rude. And I was just thinking, what is going on here? But I said, you left your wallet, so, can you come and pick it up? And he came and he literally barged into my place. He started pushing me, he was trying to grab my phone because I started recording him. So he was trying to grab it off my hand, and he spat in my face. He kicked my cat at the time. And we literally basically just, so to say, almost have a fight, physical fight. I managed to somehow, I'm not sure how, but I managed to kick him out the door, shaken up, called the police later on and reported him. And it turned out that he was actually doing that to his girlfriend, because the time when he disappeared, when I found out later that he actually had a girlfriend, and when they had a fight, then he contacted me again. And she said, this is not the first time. This is what he was doing all along with other women, doing those kind of things, talking to women when they were broken up or when they had a fight.
So essentially, you said a lot of things and there's so much to unpack. Just quickly, so you were talking to him on and off, if I've understood correctly, over the
Yeah.
course of 6 months. He disappeared and ghosted you, and he then came back.
And then he came back.
Okay. How did you meet in the first place?
So we met online on one of the, so to say, Muslim marriage apps.
Okay.
I'm not going to mention which one. It's quite a few of them, different ones.
Sure.
So one of them. And like I said, we got on really well at the beginning. And we was talking about, getting married, getting to know each other first. And then when he came back again after he ghosted me for 6 months, he said the reason was why that he didn't have a job and he didn't want to mess me around. So I said, okay, I understand that. So I was naive in that sense that, believing him. So that was one of the red flags, that he was really nice. He was charming and, telling me the things that I wanted to hear. This is what happened after.
What made you invite him to your home?
I trusted him. So because we are getting along really well on the phone and messages. And like I said, the first time when I invited him, he was really nice. And then the second time, that's what happened, where he left his wallet. Because this is the time that we're supposed to be talking about marriage. And he said the third time when he would come pick up his wallet, then
Do you live with, when you invited him to your house, do you live by yourself or with
yes,
family? So as a woman that lives by herself, you invited a guy, and how long did you talk to him before you invited him to your home? How long were you talking to him for?
so on and off for the first 6 months.
So
And then,
you only invited him to your home after
yeah,
6 months?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
So
there
it
was
wasn't straight away.
it
No,
wasn't
no, no.
straight away.
It wasn't
Okay, it
straight
wasn't
away.
straight away. So he built up that rapport and
Yes,
instilled trust in you.
yes,
All the while he was lying to you.
yes. And I didn't know until later.
So he had a girlfriend and he's trying to marry you as well.
Yes. And he had a son with her too. So.
Oh, he has a son with her as well. And was she aware of you as well, or was he lying to her?
I think he was doing that until she called me herself
Okay.
when I was trying to text him, can you pick it up, your belongings? And she actually called me and she explained to me this is what he's doing when they broke up and he's talking to other women and I'm one of them, so I'm not the only one.
So you're one of many.
Yeah, one of many.
Okay. And what's quite alarming here is that when he did come to pick up his wallet, he was quite aggressive or violent
Yes.
towards you.
Yeah.
Did you see any signs when you were interacting with him of this propensity for him to get violent?
No, he was really nice. He was really nice. He was, like I said, charming. He was really kind. He had manners. And then suddenly he just like turned. And that
And
was
the mask
shocking.
fell off.
Yes.
Okay, this happened a while back, I'm
Yeah, that was
presuming,
maybe like 5, 6 years ago.
5, 6 years. Looking back at that time,
Mhm.
was there any big red flags that you could have missed? Because if someone is putting on a face, so to speak, and then they all of a sudden become very aggressive and violent, as this person did, were there any signs that if you were to look back and think back at, that you think, oh, maybe I could have been a bit more savvy here or have a bit more wherewithal?
So I think I was too trusting in him, that he was too nice. And like when something is too good to be true, usually is.
Mm.
So I didn't trust my instinct at the time. I didn't,
So what were your instincts saying at the time that you forewent?
that there's something there, but I wasn't
You
paying
couldn't put your
attention
finger
to
on
it
it.
because I liked him.
Okay, you
Yeah.
liked him.
So kind of like I was blinded by that instead of looking at facts.
And in terms of him being nice, can you just explain to me what sort of nice things he did?
It was just a conversation, like the things that we was talking about, and he was trying to tell me that about the future, like are we gonna have a family, and basically was planning the future. That's what it was, and because this is what I wanted myself, I think that's why where the trust given.
Was there, would you say, looking back now, some kind of love bombing going on, or sort of an overzealousness in giving you compliments? Oh, you look
Yeah, I
nice
think
today.
so, because as a single woman and trying to get married again, I think we get blinded with that, love bombing.
Love
And
bombing.
yeah, definitely
Okay.
love bombing.
Sure.
And I think that kind of like took over instead of thinking logically.
And do you think that his strategy at the time, that was his strategy to love bomb
Yes,
you?
yes. Because how his girlfriend explained that he was doing that all the time.
So charming,
Yes.
compliments.
Mm.
And when you did speak to his girlfriend or his partner at the time, did that person also say to you that he has a tendency of being violent
Yes,
and
unfortunately,
aggressive?
yes. And many times he basically beat her up physically as well. And she reported him to the police. And eventually, after the incident with me, she managed to kick him out for good.
Okay. Not that it's your business. So she eventually, after getting beaten up several times, she eventually kicks him out.
Yeah.
So obviously, from this just particular story, there's the fact that this man has been lying, deceiving,
Yeah.
not just you but many other women,
Many other women.
courting you to get married, and then he's made a considerable effort here. 6 months is a long time to speak to someone, albeit even if it's 3 times a week, two times a week, he's speaking to you, he's building
That's right.
rapport, and it's energy and time and effort. So this is very dangerous
Yes,
to
because
women
they know
out
what
there.
they're doing. So they kind of like they have that kind of idea in the head, or this is what I'm gonna do, and it actually works. Because if it worked with me and all the other women, then obviously that's kind of like that's his.
It works.
Yeah.
Just from that story in isolation, if you now were to come across someone like that, that has the same hallmarks as that person, that individual, what would you do different? And this is purely to educate the audience.
I would definitely speak to him more and actually ask the questions instead of just listening what he says.
What sort of questions?
Like any violence in the past, how he treated his partner, if he had any, Any drug abuse, anything like that?
Sometimes, if I may say, forgive me for interrupting you, direct questions, you won't get a straight answer. Either they'll face lie, but you could ask leading questions. You could ask questions that led up to this question. For instance, one way of understanding an individual, either if it's a man or a woman, is that you listen to you observe what they say about other people. You observe their small tendencies. So if they're quite aggressive or they swear a lot, and these are the way you pick up. These are the telltale signs, as
This is
opposed
what
to
I
saying,
didn't know at the time.
as
I
opposed
learned
to
with experience.
as opposed to
definitely.
saying, if I asked you now, are you violent? Obviously, you're going to say no to me. Right. So I think that's quite horrific. That I think personally, and again, you are in the situation that you're in. You're single and you have no family in this country, right?
No,
So you live by yourself. So you have no other choice.
no.
Perhaps the thing to do was perhaps meet in a public place for the first or second time before inviting them to your house,
Yes,
because
definitely.
that's a very private area for you, and that could have gone entirely wrong. He could have physically abused you and potentially raped you.
Yeah, that's true. Like I said, I wasn't thinking about that at the time because I liked him, and I was blinded because
Blinded by the charm,
blinded by
romance.
the
Okay, fair enough.
unfortunately, but
Yeah.
we
So
learn
there
from the
are,
mistakes.
I think there are men out there like that. I don't think, alhamdulillah, within the Muslim community, there aren't many, but there are. And I think women should be very cautious and on guard
I think it's hidden because it happens quite more often as you think.
more often
Than you
than I
think.
think.
Then,
Yeah.
but it's just hidden because people don't talk about it because they're ashamed of it. And like I said, it's not the first time that kind of happened to me where I was with somebody who was abusive later on. It was charming. So I was actually married to somebody who was a narcissist.
Okay.
And he was having multiple women behind my back that I didn't know about. And actually, um, it happened that I had minor STI from him, and he blamed me that I was sleeping around, and I got
Whoa.
it from somebody else.
So you contracted a sexually transmitted disease from him
Yes.
because he was sleeping around with many women, and you caught that off him as well.
Luckily,
And-
it wasn't anything serious, so I got
And he
antibiotics. And
and he blamed you as well.
yeah, he blamed me.
How did you find out?
How did I find out?
Yeah.
Because obviously I was clean because I always test myself
Sure.
like every 6 months, even
Yeah.
with somebody, if I'm with somebody or not, because I use public toilets and I work in different places. I always, get the test every 6 months to a year. So I know I'm clean. So that wasn't me. And I know I don't sleep around either. So, and then he
No, as in,
admitted it later.
how would you find out that you've contracted something? Is it through a reaction that you had, or you fell ill, or how does it work?
Yeah, so like I
Or
said, it wasn't anything, so to say,
was it just your regular test that you do every 6 months?
yeah.
Okay, and that's when it came up. And
mean-
this was a separate individual to the one that was physically
Yeah, that was
abusive
separate.
towards you.
Yeah, that was separate. Yeah.
So this guy also was
so the other
cheating
guy
on you.
was basically I was married to him, and like I said, that's what he was doing behind my back. Although at the beginning we spoke about like I don't want to be a second wife, or I don't want you to get married again to have a second wife. And I said, if you're going to do that, tell me. And then we basically ended. But because I guess he liked me at the time, I'm not sure what was the reason that he didn't tell me. And he actually have quite few, let's say, different women with kids from that, kind of like doing it behind my back that I didn't know. He was like London, every other countries that he was saying, oh, he's going for some kind of work trip, but turned out later that it was actually going somewhere to get married to somebody else behind my back.
I'm sorry to hear that. That is quite sad and unfortunate. Just on this particular instance now, how would you, particularly with there is some preventative measures that you can take if you do speak to someone for marriage and you have concerns that they may be promiscuous or they've had a past where they've slept around, you can, I think you're well within your right. And I think I don't think a man should be offended if a woman asks for the man to provide a certificate that proves that they're clean, and vice versa. I think men should ask women that if they are concerned that this woman or man has a sexual past with multiple partners, because at the end of the day, your health is very important. Just on that particular experience that you had with this married man that's given you, unfortunately, a sexually transmitted disease, and not to mention he's been cheating on you multiple times and marrying other women.
He was getting married, but for me that's kind of like cheating, because if you're telling me, oh, you're not gonna do it, and then you're doing it behind my back, that's for me is cheating. Although Islamic is allowed, But for me, this is like
I think most women in this country will see it the same way as you do. So how would you prevent not falling into that trap again, where you're married to this guy and he's cheating behind you? What is it? What was he doing? So I get I've got, I'm going out there for work or business, but how did he con you? Was he quite an intelligent man? Did he have a lot
yes.
going for
So he
himself?
was very intelligent,
Right.
and he was a charmer as well, and he knew how to talk to people, how to speak to a woman. Because like even with me, before we got married, um, I know we shouldn't, but I'm gonna say that that we kissed before marriage, and nothing else. It was just that. And then later on, after we got married, he said he doesn't like kissing. I was like, why did you do that before?
How do you mean he doesn't like kissing? What does that mean?
He you didn't want to kiss me again properly, you know. So
Because it was
basically, he
haram,
was
or he just
against it.
doesn't like
No,
kissing?
he said he just doesn't like it. But what he said he only did that before we got married to get me, because he read somewhere in a book that women likes kissing, and this is how they get attached to a man. So he does that on purpose.
Wow.
Yeah. So so he's calculated
Sure.
doing those kind of things to get a woman, get married, and then treat her like crap after.
And he treated you like crap. How long were you in that married for? Married for?
Unfortunately, around 3.5 years, nearly 4. That's way too long.
Why did you stay in that marriage for 3.5 years? When did you find out that he was cheating on you?
Probably 2 years later.
And you stayed for another year and a half?
Yeah.
What made
Because I
you
was trying to work it out. I thought maybe he will change, and I was trying to be good to him and do things for him.
In spite of the fact that you at this moment in time knew he had STDs
Yeah.
that's given to you, and he has other wives in other countries. In spite of that, you still stayed.
I was trying to be patient. I know that was a mistake, and I regret that I did that for so long. Like I said, as Islamically, women, they told to be patient and kind of like stick it out to get reward for it. So I did that, thinking that maybe he will change, but narcissists never change, and they're gonna continue doing it.
So he's out there preying on
He's
other
out
women.
there still doing it. He's still there.
We should show his picture. We can't. We should show his picture.
Yes.
In terms of other behaviors that he may have had, aside obviously he was doing the cheating, what else was he doing? Because from the first story that you've told me, it seems that you're susceptible to charm,
Yeah.
and you're blinded by it.
Yeah.
To the extent
I
where
think when I'm attracted to somebody, I kind of like don't look at the red flags, or I don't want to see them because I like somebody. And this is kind of like a mistake on my part as well. But I'm getting better. Like I said, I'm trying to change my own behavior, not to attract those kind of people. I'm getting counseling because I had PTSD from that kind of abusive relationship.
Imagine, yeah.
So I have to take care of myself to attract the right person that's going to treat me right and do the right thing.
Just while we're on that topic, what do you think these men specifically target you because of the behaviors that you display? Whatever they may be.
I think they saw me, so to say, being attracted to them too quick, because I get attached really quick when I like somebody.
Okay.
And I think they took advantage of it because I live by myself. I have nobody to take care of me. I have no men around me. So there's going to be nobody to say anything to them.
Sure.
And they just do it for that reason, I guess. Which is sad.
It is sad. It's again exploitation.
Yes.
You shouldn't take advantage of anyone. Tell me about your search for a man online, because that's where it is now.
Yes. And so I have other lots of stories that over the years, it didn't happen like recently, but it's happening more recent, where men that I talk to, in the first 5 minutes, they will send me a private parts, pictures of the private parts, without asking, without, so to say, me giving them any hints that, oh, this is what I want to see. It's kind of, I think, what they're trying to do is impress women, and I'm sure they're not doing it just for me. They do that for everybody else that they talk to. So they will send private parts, pictures, straight away, kind of, in the first 5 minutes of conversation.
And these are men from Muslim apps?
Yes, from Muslim apps. Yeah, they're all Muslims.
And how many times have you had private part pictures sent to you?
Countless. More than 10.
More than 10?
More than 10. It just happens all the time. Like I said, even if I tell them at the beginning, I don't want you to do that, eventually they still do it without.
So you've been explicit in telling them.
Yes.
And you're talking to a stranger at first, and you've
stranger
had
because-
experiences where men immoral, immodest, disgusting men have been sending their private parts.
Even if I tell them, or because I
unsolicited.
said, you know, this is what I had before, and even if I tell them, they still do it.
What's their response?
They have no response for it.
So they acknowledge. So when you've matched with someone, presuming you match with them, you tell them, listen, in the past I've had disgusting men send me private parts unsolicited. I don't want to see it. I've not asked for it.
Yeah.
They say yes, 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 and then they go proceed to
And
do
they
it
still do
anyway.
it later.
What, straight away?
Maybe not straight away. So those who are kind of warned about it,
But they're
that I
keen
don't
to
want to see that, they're still doing it later on.
they're keen
still
to
do
show
it.
you their private parts.
Yes. It's like they're trying to impress women, I think, with the private parts. I said, if you want to impress me with your manners, your knowledge of deen, and your bank account. That's all I wanted to see.
These are Muslim men.
Yes.
I mean,
unfortunately.
call me naive, right? I'm a Muslim man. I will never show anyone my private parts.
They call private parts for a reason.
No, particularly online, because that could be circulated. You don't know who you're talking to.
Because you have no face on it, so
So is this happening on the app itself or on WhatsApp?
So it's mainly on WhatsApp.
So you exchange numbers by this time?
Yeah, exchange numbers because it's easier to talk on WhatsApp.
Right.
So once I get to like somebody that, I want to take it further, then I can exchange numbers and take it from there. But like I said, it happens all the time.
What's bizarre though is, and I think these men are crazy because it's one thing, not that I'm justifying it, but men and women are men and women, right? If there's one thing, if you're intimate with this individual and you've had a relationship with them and then sending whatever you want to
That's
send
different.
them.
When you're in marriage, everything is halal. It's
that's
fine.
Right, that's
you
different.
can do that.
But these people you've never met and they're just sending you their private parts.
Yes. And they're asking for return as well.
Oh, they're asking return as well? Okay.
Sometimes they're asking for return too. But mainly, if that happens, if somebody send me, so to say, like I said, the private parts, because I would just block them. I don't want to speak to them no more.
Sure.
Because like, why I'm going to waste my time? If you're disrespecting me right now, you're definitely not going to respect me later. You're definitely not going to get married. You're just wasting my time. So this is what you want. You just want to...
Just to analyze a conversation, we're going to use one of the many, more than 10 men, right? Have sent you your private parts. How would that conversation go? Just very briefly. So you say, hello, how are you? Assalamu alaikum. You're looking for marriage. Tell me.
Yeah, so it's something along those lines where we start talking and instead of, so to say, talking about our future plans or what kind of person you're looking for, they will send the picture without asking, without any warning, without anything.
And these men on their profile, do they say that they pray 5 times a day and they're looking for someone that wears a hijab and a religious woman?
They say they're practicing, that they're looking for a wife, all the good stuff.
Can I just ask, I'm sorry, what ethnicities are they?
All sorts of different stuff. It's mainly reverts from, so to say, black background. So not to be, so to say, racist. So it's like, it can be Nigerians, it can be Jamaicans, it can be, all sorts of different, so to say, black backgrounds.
So primarily black men are doing this?
Black ones, yeah.
It's quite shocking that, regardless of their colour, you're Muslim men and you're on a Muslim website talking to a Muslim woman for the sake of marriage, and the first thing you do is show lewd pictures.
There was another person that I spoke to, he was Turkish as well. He was a good-looking guy. He was like tall and big, my type. And first thing he asked me was, can I have sex with him so he can try and then decide if he wants to marry me? I said, no. I said, I don't do that. If you want to do that, go on Tinder. Don't look for a Muslim woman. If you want to sleep with somebody, go on Tinder. Forget Muslim apps. And he got upset. And he said, I can give you whatever you want. I have money. He sent me pictures of his stash of money and things like that. I said, I don't care. So I said, if you're calling yourself Muslim and you have a daughter, you have a picture of the daughter, you want somebody to treat her like that? I don't think so.
How do you prevent that now then? Because if you're saying the men that you speak to, and more often than not, it's the black men that are sending you their private parts, right? How do you avoid that?
I would just block them. If this is what they do, either I will tell them at the beginning, I don't want to see that, or if they do that without my permission, I would just block them. I'll stop speaking to them. Yeah. Speaking of that, of talking to people, there was another person that was not in this country. He was, so to say, playing with himself whilst being on the phone with me. And when I noticed it, I told him I don't want to speak to him anymore, and I blocked him.
So he let you know that he's playing with himself while
I could
talking to you?
hear it.
Oh, you could hear it,
I
but
could
he's not.
hear it.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
He was basically using me, my voice, talking to me, and then doing
What he needs to
whatever
do.
he needs to do.
Just a question, right? Do you think the reason why these type of men, try and exploit you is because you're European reverts
And I'm too nice to people, I think.
and too nice
Because
to
when
people?
I talk to people, I'm being nice and trying to be trying to have good manners, basically.
No,
Like
but having
giving
good
people chance to
so having good manners
me.
and being nice to a respectable man, he will reciprocate that. Obviously, if he's a dirty man and he's only looking for one thing, obviously he's looking in the wrong places, isn't he? But they are looking where they're looking, and there isn't a filter to filter them out. But I do feel like perhaps they may take advantage of you because you're a European revert, and whether
And
you
because I want to get married, so I think this is, I don't know if they can see that desperation. I mean, I'm not desperate. Right now, I'm just taking my time. I want to get to know somebody, and I'm working on myself, trying to change my behavior and not to let those kind of things happen. And if they do, I'll block them straight away. I had this young guy saying that he wanted me to be his mother. I was like, excuse me? I'm looking for a husband. I'm looking for a child.
how old was he?
Well, he said he was 26, I think.
Right.
Then he started changing it. He's like, oh, I'm actually 17 and I'm gonna be 18 in December or whatever. I said, so what actually?
So
how old are you?
he matched you for what? He matched you for him to be your mum? What?
Yeah, he said, I want you to be my mummy.
What does that mean?
I have no idea. What does that mean? And he's actually sent me his private parts as well.
He did as well.
Yeah, he did.
I'm sorry, I have to ask this question.
I don't know why is it
Is there
happening
any
to
men?
me.
Is there any men that you've spoken to, right, that has not sent their private part to you?
Yes, I mean there's good guys. So like once I started changing my behavior, they're actually good guys that
What were
I
your
met.
behaviors? What were your behaviors that invited these disgusting men to send them your private parts? And it doesn't matter about age. It
Just being
seems.
nice, I think.
So
They're
being
taking
nice.
advantage of like
You're
a
saying
woman
being nice
nice.
warrants a man to send his private parts.
And if I don't say something, they will continue doing it.
Absolutely, I agree. But what does nice mean? What does nice mean? Being polite?
Yeah, just being polite, have a good laugh, have a joke.
What sort of jokes?
Like a general kind of
So
conversation.
nothing intimate?
No, nothing.
You're just talking about the weather and...
Yes. And I don't give them no indications that I want to see it. Anything like that.
Shocking.
It's shocking.
What would you advise other women in your position in preventing or warding these guys off?
If somebody does that, block them straight away. Do not continue a conversation. And if they ask you for picture, never ever send them pictures. No matter what they say, because they're not going to respect you. They only want you for sexual reasons, not for marriage, not being serious, and not for the future. So do not do that.
You've had some crazy stories. Is there anything else that you want to speak about?
I think this is what kind of happens the most often. So to say the sexual talk, and many men, even if they don't send the picture, sometimes they will still start talking about sexual. There's no
Is
any
that
other
from the
conversation.
outset, or is that from the outset, or 3 months down the line?
No, it's pretty much from the beginning. It's kind of like the sexuality is the first thing that they talk about. Oh, this is important to me. I said, yeah, it's important in the marriage, of course. That's one of the why we're getting married. To be halal for each other. But only thing they think about is just the sex. They don't want to talk about finances. They don't want about building family. They don't want to talk about future. All they want to talk about is sexual stuff, which is tiring and frustrating.
I do want to try and understand the psyche or the persona of these men. I mean, do they work in a specific field, or it comes from anywhere?
Anyone.
Wow.
No matter if somebody's, so to say, poor or rich, they still do that. Because like I said, I talk to different men and I meet different people from time to time, and it's mainly
Well, they're all doing it.
They're all doing it. Yeah. People that are, so to say, that are better with the character, they don't talk about those kind of things, but I'm not interested in them.
Oh, so it's a double-edged sword.
Yes, it is.
The guys that are
So
disgusting, you're attracted to them
just physically, but
physically.
once they start talking and do those kind of things, like I mentioned already, then
Mm,
I just get put off straight away. I say,
mm.
this is not a person for me. Because they only want thing. They don't want nothing else. And
So,
they're just
so,
gonna waste my time.
so the nice guy that's very nice ends up last because you're not attracted to him,
Yeah.
and the dog, obviously, he doesn't get anywhere. But the
But he
thing,
tries.
the
He
thing
tries.
is, the dog that does try it with his private parts. If it doesn't work on you, clearly he has got some confidence or he's emboldened to do it
Yes.
because he has got currency from somewhere else.
And if I ask them why they did that, they said because women ask for it. So they think all women want that.
Uh,
I think that's why they do
what,
it.
Muslim women?
Muslim women, yes. Unfortunately, yes. And I've heard stories as well. What women do, like what kind of pictures they send, and I actually seen it. Person that I used to, so to say, hang out with, show me the pictures of women, what kind of pictures they sending him
Mm,
to entice him
mm,
before marriage.
mm. So it works both ways.
Goes both ways,
Mm.
unfortunately.
Why do it on a Muslim app? Just do another. There's so many other apps out there that's very open to that. And lastly, before we finish off, in terms of your psychological well-being, how has it affected you?
It affected me the way of me, so to say, doubting myself
Mm,
and thinking this is what I am for only. There's
mm.
nothing else to me that they only attracted to me because oh, I'm a woman, I'm a single, and this is what they only want to do to me and nothing else. So they don't see me as a woman that's supposed to be respected in Islam and, giving all the
They don't see
rights.
you as a human being
No.
and as a
So
woman,
I'm an
and
object.
you've been
Yeah.
objectified. And I'm so sorry to hear that. Hopefully, you have. Thank you for sharing all of these
Mhm.
disgusting stories, and I'm very sorry that this has happened to you. And I think the audience can take heed. And also, you've learnt yourself, right?
Yes,
You will not be
I
making the
did.
same mistakes again.
Definitely
Yep,
not.
I can take
Not
assurances
inviting
in
people
that.
to my house.
Yep.
No accepting no pictures. Definitely blocking people straight away if they start talking
And
about
the charm
disgusting
of the
things.
narcissism and
Yeah,
the
definitely not.
sexually transmitted disease and stuff. And to be fair, that's just unfortunate. That could have happened to anyone.
Of
You're
course,
married to
yes.
someone, you don't know how they are, and
Yes.
the. Well, thank you very much. I think Sister Khawla's on the line now. Thank you, Sister Khawla, for joining us. I appreciate you're very busy, and we appreciate your time. So I've just had I have Sister Sophia with me, and she's told me about some of the horrific stories that she's had with men
Mhm.
across the spectrum. She's had issues while she was married, and she's had issues with men outside of marriage, looking for marriage. And there's been a whole plethora of things that has understandably traumatized her, and she's doubted herself. But I've brought you on as a woman's advocate for domestic abuse. Can you please inform us and educate us about what women should be looking for with regards to early signs of abuse?
Okay, so I'd like to start by saying I will be drawing on my experiences as an advocate educator, but I'll also be referring to the fact that I'm a Muslim woman, so referring to the deen as well in this. So as a Muslim woman, as Muslims, we're encouraged to marry the one that has good deen and good khuluq, character. And I'd like to focus the conversation on how we can determine whether a man has good character. So let's first agree what is good character. Um, Someone with integrity, honesty, someone who's transparent, who means what they say, someone who's authentic, who's genuine, respectful, and humble. Now we can determine what poor character is from that. So someone who's deceptive and manipulative, disrespectful, and arrogant. But the question really is, how can we, in the very early stages, spot these early warning signs of poor character? Because it really is quite insidious in the way that it sort of creeps up. So we'll start by looking at communication. And really what we're paying attention to is deceptive communication and manipulation tactics. So a man who might be what we call a red flag or have some early warning signs will have what I would say poor communication skills when it comes to his interactions with women. He won't be genuine, he won't be authentic, and he won't be transparent. He may have an ulterior motive. He might not be considering the woman for marriage, but still entertaining her, even if they've matched on a marriage or matrimonial site or app. So how that might come across is if he's either monopolizing the conversation, making it all about himself, using the conversation to feed his ego, really showing off about aspects of himself that he believes might impress you. Or it might be imbalanced in the way that he spends all of his time listening to you and finds a way to revert the conversation back to you, asking all the questions so that when it comes to his turn, he can then mirror back all the answers that you've given. So what this is not a genuine intention to get to know you, but to actually extrapolate and find out information from you that he can then use to form a inauthentic connection with you. The other thing is that when he's focusing all that attention on you, he may also manipulate you by what we call love bombing. So that might look like compliment after compliment, showering you with praise. It could be gifts, but in the very early stages, it's probably very much just verbal. And the difficulty with this is that it floods women with a really chemical response. So oxytocin and dopamine is feeling all these rushes of sort of excitement and feeling really validated, because the reason why this is so alluring is because women have a primitive innate need to be desired and wanted. So they often feel really seen and validated in these situations. Now, as a Muslim, it is really important to have a wali or even a third party in these circumstances, because if you are experiencing this, it can be very difficult to then rationalize whether this man is genuinely compatible with you or not, because you have now all these chemical experiences happening at the same time. So you're confusing your experience of him with what he truly is. So that way, if you've got a third party that you're even just keeping in the loop about the conversations you might be having, they can help you rationalize and assess the man objectively.
If I can stop you there, Sister Khawla, I think
Sure.
you made very, very valid points, and I want to draw it back to Sister Sophia's experiences, and I think you hit the nail on the head, where women use the charming tactic, love bombing, transactional tactic, whether it's through gifts or compliments, and time again, from what I've heard from Sister Sophia, she because of the oxytocin and the need to be desired, her guard almost dropped entirely, and which ensued in her to get fall prey to so many bad experiences. Can I ask you about the transactional man whom perhaps uses gifts or showers them with compliments in return for something? What are the things that women need to spot out for then, and how does a man of that kind go about doing it? Can you just talk to us about that?
Sure. So in that instance, you might find that he gives you a compliment or he gives you a gift, and it very shortly follows with something that he requires from you back. So he'll be very smart about it. He won't show that it's transactional and say, oh, like, here's your gift, now can I have this? It will be, here's your gift. I hope you're having a really good time. I really hope you like the gift. I put so much thought into it. He might even indicate that he spent a lot of money. And then later on, he might say something like, I don't know, when can I see you again? And it will be maybe tied to that. It depends what he wants from you. And she'll feel obliged in some way to respond with something affirmative. So because he's now conditioned her to respond in that way, because he's given her that. Now, if, for example, he's complimenting you or he's giving you gifts or is what you think is love bombing you, and you start to say no and you're firm in your boundaries, watch very carefully how he responds. Does he feel slighted? Does he feel rejected? How does he respond to that? And I think that will be very telling.
Thank you. I think that's a very good response. And in terms of setting boundaries and ensuring that you observe how they react to your boundaries, and if they respond in kind, you continue. Can I just ask, in terms of, because what with Sister Sophia, she from the outset, in the very first 5 minutes, figure of speech speaking, she's had many men send her nude pics, unwarranted, unsolicited private pictures. In terms of conversations to gauge if a man is like this, is there any sort of pattern that we should be observing or readily identify that this is this sort of man, etc., etc.? Can we gauge that from the very outset?
I mean, let's say, for argument's sake, their profile is, respectable, clean. There's nothing on the profile that indicates they might have this poor character or malintent. And you match, and the conversation starts. I think it starts with even the greeting. Is it a hey, how you doing? Is there some sort of fire emoticon, or is there something saying you look so good in your profile pic? If he starts off that in that casual, jokey way, I would very much say that indicates his intention right off the bat. But if he starts with maybe a salam or hello, how are you? I hope you're well, that shows he's somewhat serious. He's respectable. He started off the conversation well. If you then engage and you start to hear or see the kind of questions he's asking. So when it comes to communication, you're paying attention to what they're communicating, how they're communicating it, and how much they're communicating. So earlier we touched on how much they communicate. Is it imbalanced or is it balanced? And then when you're looking for how they communicate and what they're communicating, you're looking for the kind of questions they ask you. Are they taking an interest in you? Are they taking an interest in you in a way that indicates they are picturing you as their future wife? So are they asking you questions about maybe children, livelihood, how you want to live your life, values, really important things that could be just secluded to marriage. You wouldn't have those conversations otherwise. If he's very much talking about other things that are not anything in relation to marriage, then that would be another way to determine that this man probably has another intention.
Thanks. I think that was a great answer. Another question I have for you, in terms of, and again, we're not here to advise people what to talk about and how they go about conducting their business, but in terms of identifying things like deception, because deception is it's an umbrella term, and it sort of manifests itself in various guises and forms. How in terms of, again, I think you touched on communication and in the way in which they talk, and I think you made a very good point about mirroring, where the man actually lets the woman speak and then gathers enough information to then mirror back to them, almost like a manipulative tool.
So it's kind of like a trap where men expecting those kind of information and they act this way to get the woman, and then once all that charm is gone, the real person comes out and it's already too late.
Yeah. So the question for me is, in terms of early warning signs, how would a woman identify deception? Is it just merely through communication? I mean, communication is the only sort of avenue that we're using in terms of communication, but is there anything else that you'd like to shed light on that women should be aware of?
I think when it comes to deception, it's really key to pay attention to whether their words align with their actions. So it's very easy to talk the talk. Words are very cheap, and manipulative men have language at their disposal. So their actions, their lifestyle, their choices, do they align with what they've said about themselves? If they've studied you and mirrored back to you what they think you want, their actions and lifestyle will not align with what they've said. So ask questions to get examples from them. For example, if he said he's religiously committed and he prays, but he's on the phone to you during all the prayer times and he doesn't seem to, say, I'm going to go off and pray now, then that's, you need to pay attention to those things. That's a sign that he's not actually what he says he is. We often see religion being used to deceive sisters who are themselves religiously committed. They practice obedience, and they take that seriously. And men often manipulate, they use that. Unfortunately, the deen and good character are usually conflated. And a man might be really well versed in scripture, but that only will be the verses that serve his own interest. But when it comes to verses that hold him accountable, he's suddenly not in favor of the religion. So really putting his words to the test, really paying attention to his actions, asking about examples from his lifestyle that support the claims that he's made.
If I may add to that, just from a man's perspective, so if I'm a man that has an ulterior motive or has come with malign agendas, not to marry, but to do everything else but marry. And I want your thoughts on this, actually. So if a man that has a very malign agenda, he actually will test the waters with how much he can get away with. And depending on the woman's reciprocity, will give him leverage or currency in order to proceed forward. And the example I'd give you is, for instance, I'll use a basic example. If I'm speaking to a girl for the very first time, and I'm saying, "Oh, what are you doing later on tonight? Let me pick you up. Let's meet in person in a car, or let me take you to a certain place." These advances, that are subtle amorous advances, are also a red flag. And a man will gauge if he can say those things or not. So, for instance, if he's speaking to a woman that's obviously he's matched them and she's quite practiced and she's quite intelligent, and he may say small, not to the extent of what I've just given as an example, but small things such as, "Oh, how's your day been?" Or he might slightly be flirting, see how much he can get far with that that flirtiness in order to gain currency to go and proceed on to other things. So I think that's very important as well, because men will try their luck with the communication. It's very important that women do respond and set up the barriers from the outset.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I just want to go back to the question you asked about Sister Sophia's experiences with men who very quickly became disrespectful in their interactions with her. I was wondering if Sister Sophia is able to see any signs of what we talked about in terms of communication in her interactions with these men.
Yeah, so like I said, at the time, I think because I liked them too much, I didn't see those signs. I think that's why education for young women or whoever is trying to get married, education of how to recognize those things straight away. I think that would be a good idea for sisters to do this kind of classes, either online or in person, as a warning, so we don't get basically falling into those traps again. So we need to know this kind of things, like how they work, what kind of strategies men use to get into those kind of conversations in the first place.
Unfortunately, I couldn't hear Sister Sophia.
If I can regurgitate that, I think what she was
Please.
saying is that because she liked them too much, she
was blinded by
was blinded by her attraction or love towards them. So she forego all of the things that women should look for. So perhaps
Right.
emotional regulation.
No, I think it's exactly what we were talking about earlier, which is when he builds that false sense of a bond. So if, for example, he's complimenting her or praising her and making her feel validated and seen, he's actually creating a false sense of trust and attachment and maybe a dependence from her side. So that's what it sounds like to me.
And she's taken heed and has learnt her lessons. But I think it's very important that these ploys, or particularly, I think you said something very important and significant about the transaction or compliments on a contingent. I've complimented you, so I need something in return. And when you create an environment, the woman feels obliged to respond in the affirmative, and that's something that's a deadly trap that some women fall into.
Mm-hmm.
Can you
Absolutely.
talk? Yeah, can you talk a bit more on that, please?
Sorry. So yeah, the last sort of thing that the last few points that are early warning signs. So disrespect and a lack of emotional intelligence or emotional maturity. So the reason why disrespect is so important is because if it's there from the beginning, it's surely going to get much worse. So disrespect can be quite insidious at the beginning, and it might be quite subtle and sandwiched with compliments. So he might say, for example, "Oh, I think it's really amazing that you teach, but it's all right for some, isn't it? You know what they say, if you can't do, then teach. Oh, but yeah, it's a really tough job, and you've got my respect." So he started with a positive, and then he criticized you, and then he ends with another false positive. But it's just because he's slid that in there, that's what he really thinks. But because he's started with praise and ended with praise, you start getting confused. So a lot of the women I work with, they're always very confused about whether this man, where they stand with the man. A man who is serious, who's honorable, who has good character, will be very clear. He'll be very clear about his intentions. He'll be very respectful of you, your time. You will know where you stand with him. And you'll get the absolute opposite with a man who is a walking, talking red flag. And just to build on disrespect, so this kind of passive aggressiveness, you know, the mocking tone, the sarcastic remarks, it's usually also quite telling of their inner thoughts about you, their bitterness, their actual envy, and even their intent to slowly chip away at you. They might not be disrespectful towards you at the beginning. They might be disrespectful about other people, other men, other women, people who are not like you. So they think, okay, you're not going to mind so much because it's not about you. For example, if he's talking to a practicing woman, he might talk really badly about women who aren't practicing. If he's talking to someone who's not so religiously committed, he might talk really badly or in a derogatory way about women who are religiously committed. So really pay attention to that, because I think that's always very present in someone who has the potential to become an abuser later on. And the last thing is emotional intelligence. The reason why this one is so important is because every marriage is going to have some form of conflict. And the success of the marriage really is based on how well we're able to resolve conflict, because it will be present. So if he is not able to resolve conflict in a healthy way, you are going to have a very difficult time with him. So you're looking at things like defensiveness, being what some people say is easily triggered, not stonewalling, so shutting down, avoiding the subject, ghosting you for a few days and then coming back and acting like nothing's happened. So that real lack of consistency when it comes to anything really serious or anything they find difficult to talk about. And I think it was Dr. Mate who says that safety isn't the absence of threat, it's the presence of emotional connection. So we know that women in Islam look for a man who can provide.
Sorry, you cut off. Can you hear me? Hello? 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 I think we lost Sister Khawla. But I think if I were to summarize, she made very, very important points. The false positives, I think, is a common thing where you have a positive and negative in between, and then a positive, and you should look for the negative in between. That's what their true reflection, that's what they're meaning to say. Are you back, Sister Khawla?
Yeah? I am. Sorry.
Oh, you are back. Yeah, so you cut off again. Yeah, I was just about to summarize what you're going to say, but yeah, please continue.
Where did you hear me up to?
The emotional intelligence, stonewalling, the absence, and you referenced Dr. Mate, who said safety was about the presence of emotional,
yes. So safety connection is not the absence of threat, but the presence of connection, emotional connection.
Yeah.
We know that divorce is on the rise, especially in our community. We know that it's largely women that initiate divorce, and one of the number one reasons that women initiate divorce is because of an emotional lack of connection. So feeling neglected or feeling unheard or feeling unseen, feeling humiliated, something to do with feeling
If I may quickly stop you, I do want your thoughts on this. On the flip side, why do women stay in toxic, and the reason I'm talking about women here, because it's a women's episode, why do women stay in toxic relationships? Like Sister Sophia stayed in a relationship for a year and a half longer than she should have done so, because the man was cheating on her, the man gave her STDs, and all the other things that came with it, and she she decided to stay in that marriage a year and a half longer than she should have done?
There's several reasons. Usually it's because they're very much trauma bonded. Um, they're very used to those highs and lows. So he conditions her to wait for that next dose of dopamine. So he praises her and treats her really well, and then it goes on a cycle where he then belittles her, humiliates her, degrades her, or neglects her, and she's just waiting, or women in her position are just waiting for that window again when he'll be good to her.
But surely,
then-
doesn't, if I may stop you there, surely the fact that he's cheated on her and lied to her and given her STDs in this particular instance, what still made her stay? Are you saying that it's linked to the dopamine, or is it more trauma bonding?
Well, that's what trauma bonding is.
Okay.
Trauma bonding is a very physiological experience. It's also something that is very deep rooted. Usually we have a background on this, or women like this have a background. They've maybe been brought up in homes where they've seen this type of thing. It's been normalized to them. They may have had a parent who normalized this behavior to them, or for whatever reason, they lack a sense of self-esteem.
So it's taught behavior from previous experiences.
It could be a combination of things, but it could be that it's learned. It could be that this is normalized. They feel this is familiar to them because they maybe grew up in a home with chaos. And I'm just speculating. I'm not saying this is specific to Sister Sophia. I'm saying this is why victims generally stay.
Okay.
They're used to this type of thing. They normalize it. This is what feels familiar to them. And they may generally also suffer from a lack of self-esteem. So when a man tells her she can't do any better, she genuinely believes that. Or when a man tells her, this is what you deserve, they genuinely believe that this is what I deserve. I don't deserve anything better than this.
Thank you, Sister Khala. Any final words or thoughts from you? Thank you. That was really good. Are you there? Hello? Are you there? I think we've lost her again. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep, so any final thoughts from you? Final words?
I think in summary, it's just focusing really on, paying attention to what they communicate, how they communicate it, whether there's any deception and manipulation in their communication, whether their values really align with what they're saying, if there's any signs of disrespect, is there a presence of emotional intelligence and maturity? I think that's the summary.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate how busy you are. Very insightful, and I think hopefully, inshallah, it helps a lot of women out there in first understanding what's been said and then looking for these things, or the absence of these things, rather. Thank you very much, Sister Khawla. We appreciate you, and we'll have you back on, hopefully in person, in studio, hopefully, if we can.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, sir.
Well, we're going to come to an end here. I think a lot of things were discussed, particularly from Sister Sophia, and I applaud you, and you have my huge appreciation on the fact that you've come out and been brave to share your own experiences. And I'm not naive enough to think that you're the only person that has gone through these experiences, and you've done some introspection and you're doing work on yourself. I don't want to put words in your mouth. The old version of you,
It's gone.
the old version of you is gone.
Definitely. I'm not the same person as I was.
Okay,
And
good. And
I'm smart enough to recognize those things now.
And do you think that the men that saw the old version of you, and you've mentioned wide-ranging types of men, do you think they automatically detected that you were vulnerable? They thought,
I know men, and I'm sure from your experience,
Yeah.
you will sense the desperation of
So
women.
men can, generally speaking, sense desperation. They can also sense vulnerability. Now, a good man and a man with honor and integrity doesn't take advantage. If he senses vulnerability in this person, he either says, this woman's not for me, But if for the very short time that they do have the interaction, he gives them sound advice and then moves on. But unfortunately, we live in a society where there are men that are predators and they prey, and they're all that they're looking for is lust.
Because we as women want to feel safe.
Mm,
So once the man, having those kind of games and they know what to say, we kind of fall into that trap and we feel safe and we feel, so to say, wanted. Because that's what every woman wants to be.
And I think Sister Khawla emphasized on this about the lack of self-esteem.
Yeah.
Maybe the trauma from
the previous relationship, like if somebody, like in my case, was like belittling and saying, "Oh, you're never gonna find somebody else, and you're gonna be by yourself," and all sorts of stuff. And that's kind of like playing on woman's psychic, and she thinks she can't do any better, and she's gonna be alone.
And
so she'd rather stay with the person that she's with, than actually leave.
So you're almost imprisoned.
Yes,
they've mentally imprisoned you,
yes.
And just it sort of corroborates with what I said about a man will choose his words, whether he's smart or stupid, depending on how smart he is, or he will choose his words and he'll see what he can get away with. And if he is in the business of manipulating, it's not so hard to do, right? Particularly if someone is vulnerable. If someone is vulnerable, if a vulnerable woman gives a very bad man an inch, he will take, a kilometer.
Yeah, it's true. Unfortunately,
he will take. Just quickly, still to my head, this young boy that said you wanted to be his mummy. Where was he from?
So he was Irish.
Right.
Like I said, he wanted to be mommy to him and his sister. That apparently was in adoption, and he wanted me to marry him to be his mommy for him and for her.
So he's got serious mental health issues.
Definitely. That's not right.
We'll end on a light note. I wish you the very best in finding a righteous man that is suitable for you, compatible for you, and treats you as the woman that you ought to be treated like. We thank Sister Khawla for taking time out of a very busy schedule to come and give some very insightful advice. But I'd just like to end on this. We live in a world where a lot of things that were immoral or heinous 10 years ago or 20 years ago has somehow become the norm now, and it's widely accepted. Ultimately, hold yourself to account whether you're a man or a woman. And if you're a Muslim, alhamdulillah, we've been given boundaries by Allah that we need to adhere to and use that as a governance for. So if you are of the mind, and I'm not judging you, if you're of the mind that you want to have fun, make sure you go to a platform that both of the parties are okay with that. Don't try and beguile a woman that is religious into, and vice versa, by the way. It's not just men that are doing it, it's women that are doing it as well. But, and I'm not advocating this, there are platforms for that to happen. Don't destroy an innocent soul. And more importantly, if you are doing these things, we know how severe zina is, and people talk about it like it's interest. I mean, interest and zina are unfortunately things in our society that are common practice now. These are big crimes in Islam. So protect yourself, protect others, and ultimately, I think power is through knowledge. The more you know, the better you're protected. Thank you very much for watching. Next week, we're going to have an exorcist on, and he's going to speak about black magic, some of the crazy stories that he's dealt with, and also give everyone advice about what to do to protect yourself and what to look out for. So do tune in for that. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Are you not entertained?